Abaday and good afternoon. Welcome to the Guam Congress Building, the People's House. Today, I will be conducting this hearing. I am obviously the other Chris. I'm not the Senator Chris Malfunction Barnett. He's not feeling well today, and so he's asked me as the Vice Chair to go ahead and conduct this hearing. So I just want to welcome everyone who's come today, and I'll go ahead and move forward with what we're doing today during this hearing. And just thankful that everybody is here and will proceed at this time. Good afternoon. This public hearing is conducted by the Committee on Education, Public Safety, and the Arts, and is now called to order at 2:10 p.m. Notice of this hearing was disseminated to all local media outlets on March 26, 2024, with the second notice provided on March 31, 2024. Notice of the hearing was also made known on the Guam Legislature's website and the Government of Guam Public Notices portal. This afternoon, the committee will hear testimony on the following appointments. Ms. Christine Baleto as an upper-level managerial position in a private business representative, member of the Guam Education Board to serve a term length of 3 years from the date of confirmation. We will also hear Ms. Roberta M. Abaday as a community at-large representative, member of the Guam Commission for Educator certification to serve a term length of 3 years from the date of confirmation. And finally, we will hear also Dr. Michelle M.S. Santos as a member of the Guam Commission for Educator certification to serve the term of 3 years from the date of confirmation. I would now like to welcome my colleagues that joined us today, and I guess I'll just be welcoming myself for now. Looks like a pretty easy confirmation. Before we begin, I'd like to go over the general rules of conduct. Individuals testifying shall be recognized by the chair before speaking and shall state their name for record-keeping purposes. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Personal inference to the character or motive of any senator or individual testifying is not permitted. The chairperson of the committee may order the removal from having any member of a legislature in Guam who fails to observe proper decorum pursuant to the 37 Guam Legislature Standing Rules. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in removal from the hearing by the host. We will now proceed with the hearing testimony on the appointment of Ms. Christine Baleto as a member of the Guam Education Board. We will hear from those who are here to present testimony on behalf of Ms. Baleto before we hear from Ms. Baleto. And being that I think we have 2 reappointments and 1 coming back, a returnee, we're going to ask all those who are here to testify to go ahead and testify on all 3 nominees, and then we'll bring up the nominees one by one, if that's your decision, whoever you're here for. But if you want to provide your testimony on all 3, you could do that whenever you choose to come forward. Okay? So at this time, it looks like to testify other than the nominees, Roberta Abaday does want to testify on a nominee as well, other than being a nominee. Dr. Ron McNinch is also going to be testifying. And also, who else do we have? Ms. Maria Gutierrez will be testifying as well. So for those who are called to testify, please come forward. And I believe we also have Dr. Okada, who's joined us as well, and she'll be coming forward to testify. So if we can call all those who are going to be providing testimony forward at this time, please approach. And Dr. Managerial, you're surrounded by ladies, so I'm going to start on the furthest left with our dear Dr. Okada, and please proceed with your testimony.
Abaday, good afternoon. Senator Duenas, Senator Brown, thank you for your support today. And I am here to testify on behalf of the appointment or reappointment of Ms. Christine Baleto to the Guam Education Board. So Ms. Baleto fulfilled an unexpired term of Dr. McNinch, and so she is now coming before this legislature for a full 3-year term as indicated in your remarks. I have worked with Ms. Baleto over the past at least a year in her capacity as a member of the Guam Education Board, and I really welcomed her financial expertise to the department and to the board as we started to develop the fiscal year 2025 budget for the Guam Department of Education. She has served in finance for many, many years, also serving as a director for the Department of Administration. And as the department has the largest budget of the government of Guam, it is imperative that the department submits a responsible a responsible budget so that the students that are availing of all the service provided by the Guam Department of Education are met. Ms. Baleto has been very steadfast in her support and commitment to the schools that actually provide the services for the kids. On many occasions, she has identified the need for more school aides in the schools to help with the fighting that has been occurring on some of the campuses in our district, and so she's been very consistent in her commitment to support students, to support principals, to support the administration of the schools. And so with that, I would just really like to provide my full support for Ms. Baleto to continue her role on the Guam Education Board. Sidus Masi, thank you very much.
Sidus Masi to you, President Okada, Dr. Okada, and also thank you for recognizing my good colleague, and I would like to recognize her now. Thank you for joining me, Senator Joanne Brown. I'm glad I'm not alone, one of my favorite colleagues to work with, so thank you for being here. And Doc, once again, we're outnumbered, but you know what? I think it's because we just came off Women's History Month that women's power is demonstrating itself again. So Ms. Maria Gutierrez, who is Board of Director also on the Board of Education, please proceed with your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Duenas. Good afternoon, Senator Brown. My name is Maria Gutierrez. I'm here also to testify in support of my colleague, Ms. Christine Baleto, and Dr. Okada said it all. So all I can say is that from the time she came in, Ms. Baleto, I really enjoy because one day she told me, Mrs. G, I'm glad I have you because you and I share the same concerns that we have. So she has really provided a lot of support, and like they say, her financial background. I didn't have to worry. I just do the review, and then I'll send it to them and say, okay, what do you think? But we are very fortunate to have her. She had a lot of reconsideration whether she wants to be reappointed or not. And I asked her, please don't, we really need you. So that's why I texted her today and said, asked me, are you going? I said, I'm already here since 1 o'clock to make sure I don't get late. So Senator Brown and Senator Duenas, please, I encourage you, if you could expedite her confirmation here during the session. We really need her. Thank you so much.
Sidus Masi, Mrs. Gutierrez, and we will certainly work with the committee and work with the chairman to move all of these appointments as swiftly as possible through the process. But it looks like our committee report process will be not extensive or lengthy, so we might be able to realize that as you would like us to do it this session, but we'll follow the committee report process. But thank you for your testimony. Dr. Maninch, please proceed.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for this opportunity to testify here at the Guam Legislature. My name is Ron McNinch. I'm a member of the Guam Education Board, and I've served on the board since 2016. I was the former business representative, which is the position that Ms. Christine Baleto now serves in. She's a very good board member. She disagrees and argues with me all the time. Everything I have to say, she has a contrary opinion. I can never get a word in edgewise. Every time I say something, she responds to it. And I think that that's healthy. We want board members to debate and discuss things. And she was my student. I think that's why she does it, is she used to be my student, and now she's trying to teach me some things. And so I certainly fully support Christine, and she's going to do wonderfully on the board, and it's my honor and pleasure to testify today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manench. And at this time, then, we will move on to Ms. Roberta Abaday and take your testimony. Please proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Senator Chris Duenas, Vice Chairperson on the Committee of Education, Public Safety, and the Arts, and esteemed Senator Joanne Brown. Abaday, my name is Roberta Abaday, and I am the chairperson from the Guam Commission for Educator Certification. On behalf of the GCEC, I strongly support the appointment of Dr. Michelle Santos as a member of the Commission. Her appointment meets the requirements of Public Law 29-73, and her experience in the Guam Public School System, Guam Community College, and the University of Guam provides her with valuable knowledge of the educational system and the requirements for school improvement. I have worked with Dr. Michelle Santos on the Guam Commission for Educator Certification. Beginning as the representative from Guam Community College, she was able to bring her experience as an educator and administrator to advise the commissioners on certification issues. Her insight into the training of teachers and the classroom needs assisted in the development of the standards for teacher education. In 2014, she was selected by the legislature and the governor as a community member for the GCEC. Dr. Santos continued to work with the commission and accepted the role of treasurer as well as chairperson of the Extension Review Committee, along with working on the Standard Operating Procedures Committee. As the treasurer, it was her responsibility to monitor the budget and spending for the GCEC and to present a report at each of our meetings. Her responsibility included analyzing the spending to ensure that the office was keeping within its budget, as well as recommending needed adjustments to the budget. As the chairperson of the Extension Review Committee, Dr. Santos was tasked with reviewing the documentation presented by those educators who were requesting an extension of their certificate and to determine if the certification extension should be recommended to the GCEC. She called her committee together, reviewed and discussed the documents, and ensured that the law was followed while providing the compassion needed to understand the problematic situations sometimes explained in the documents. Dr. Santos, from the time she was a GCC representative through her tenure as a community representative, attended every meeting of the commission, worked well with her colleagues, and was willing to take on additional responsibilities in the role of officer and committee chairpersons. Dr. Michelle Santos is able to bring her background knowledge, along with her commitment to education and her professionalism, to any task that is given to her. I humbly ask the legislature for your favorable consideration of her nomination in order to continue the valuable work of the GCEC. Sidruos Maase, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to provide this testimony.
Thank you, Ms. Abaday, and that was very high praise from Dr. Santos, so I appreciate the testimony. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and defer to my colleague, Senator Brown, and see if she has any questions for the panel. Given the nominees and as well as the individuals who come forward, I basically just allowing for this to go forward on all nominees. So if you want to ask those testifying any questions with any nominee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions. I think you've all presented your position very well with regards to the nominees that are before us. And thank you for taking the time. I know it's a tough job. DOE is a big nut to crack. And many have tried, and I know there's still challenges there, but the fact that you're stepping forward to provide support and actually be directly engaged in the process is most appreciated. So thank you very much for coming today and providing your testimonies for the nominees, and appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator, and I share your comments. I believe all of you are just extremely experienced, and coming forward to once again put yourself on the record in testimony to these nominees is once again a great support, and obviously they've performed up to their levels and duties as your colleagues as well. So I'm going to go ahead and forego any questions as well and ask you to enjoy yourself, have a great afternoon, and excuse you at this time. If you want to stick around, you're welcome to do so. I think we have water in the lobby. So we'll excuse the panel testifying at this time. Oh, Ms. Gutierrez, you have something else?
Senator, I didn't sign in for Mrs. Abaday and
Please proceed.
Dr. Santos, but I'm here also to support them. They have been at JFK with my kids, and they know me as a parent there, and I'm glad that Dr. Santos is now the PTO president of the John F. Kennedy High School. So congratulations, and I urge for all of you to please give them your support and confirm them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez, once again, and please have a great afternoon. So at this time, I'd like to invite Ms. Christine Baleto forward, and also Dr. Santos to come forward. And of course, we will hear you individually. And once again, in no order, I'm just going to go down the line. So I'll start on our far left here, my left, and ask Ms. Christine Baleto to please testify on her behalf and thank her for accepting the appointment from the governor. Please proceed.
Thank you, Senator Duenas and Senator Brown. It's good to see both of you. It seems like the only time I get to see you guys is when I'm coming to this hall for these kinds of confirmation hearings. Appreciate you taking the time to be here today. And of course, I want to thank my colleagues on the board for coming out and providing testimony. Just as Mrs. G said, from my reappointment, I really struggled with whether I wanted to accept the reappointment. There's a lot of work and challenges at GDOE, and we've certainly been together, trying to work through even a budget that we can submit to the legislature for consideration. As Dr. Arcata said, there's issues surrounding the number of teachers that are in each of the schools, the number of school aides. We see violence erupting on social media that is a big concern for all stakeholders, and it's something that, we're trying to address along with, the facilities and their conditions and getting the repairs that are needed. And so being a member of the GDOE board takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of commitment. And I, struggled with that because I do have a full-time job and I have a small business. But I met with the chairwoman and I talked to her and I, basically said I don't feel that I'm giving enough or that I can attend every single function or, whenever the schools call us to come out. It's been really difficult for me, but I do make it a point to make every fiscal meeting, every board meeting, and, she basically reminded me that the reason why we serve on this board is to make sure that we're building a better school and a better system for our kids. And so for me, that ultimately is the reason why I'm here today, is to ask for your support so I can continue to contribute whatever skills they find meaningful and helpful that I have to make it better, not just for the children, but for our teachers, for the administrators, and for our community as a whole. And so I hope that I can count on your support and the other members of the legislature, and that you will confirm me as a member of the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Baleto. And as you complete your testimony, we'll go ahead and just have questions for the nominees directly as we go down the line. So, Senator Brown, do you have any questions for Ms. Baleto?
Thank you very much, Mr. I really don't. I've had the opportunity to work with Ms. Baleto as my board member at the Port Authority of Guam. And I know how detailed she is in looking at a budget and the amount of time she takes out. And back then also, she was working very hard in the private sector before she became the Director of Administration. So as far as the numbers are concerned, I know she looks at it with a very skilled eye and a very, very sharp pencil, and she invests the time. And it's amazing because considering how busy she is, you would think she would, not be able to do that. But surprisingly, sometimes, I guess, as they say, if you have a big task, give it to someone who's busy because they'll get the job done. And that's very much been my experience in working with you, Ms. Baleto. So you definitely have my support. We recognize DOE has tremendous challenges. And, as years go by, we're always hoping things will get better. But as you mentioned, the infrastructure of the schools that need to be addressed, the management, the budget is very large. And that's a good and a bad thing, because then we don't know how effectively and efficiently the money's being spent. And that's the challenge, because as I've mentioned, when we deal with the charter schools, when we deal with the private schools, when I see schools that are operating with far less budgets, including the charter schools that operate with far less budget per child than the DOE system, and I see the children are doing very well, then I have to look and say, wait a minute, what are we not doing better here? Or is the Department of Education too big and we need to divide it? I don't know. That's something we need to look at, because these basic issues of facility maintenance, to me, is the baseline. I mean, that we just want to make sure our children are in safe, clean environments, so that the process of education, which is ultimately what the main focus of the Department of Education is, particularly those children that otherwise may never have had the opportunity for education. More the reason we need to get at some point to where we're not just starting over. And I hope in your decision making, I mean, we all want to be nice with our directors and our general managers, but if they're not performing to the level that we expect, then that's something you as a board need to address, because that ultimately reflects on you. The decisions you make, the people you put in place that have to do the actual heavy lifting and the hard work. It's not insurmountable, but it's quite a task, and we recognize that. But for those of you, like each of you that are here today, including you, Ms. Baleto, that are dedicating your time and effort, which really is it's a heartfelt effort, because you could be doing so many other things, and your hourly fee that you could charge is quite substantial. So the fact that you're willing to take the time to continue to invest in education, you were here not so long ago for your initial confirmation to the board, and so I appreciate the fact that you're stepping forward and wish you continued success in the work that you're doing, because the kids need it. They really do, and I appreciate the fact that you're willing to step forth and do that. So with that, I have no questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Brown, and I certainly concur, and having worked with you as a cabinet member when you were overseeing the entire budget of Department of Administration, the government of Guam, line agencies, you certainly demonstrated your acumen, your tenacity, and your ability to deal with difficult situations. I think the only question I would have is on the third party and those issues as we're working through going forward now. What were your findings, and how do you see in terms of compliance and us going forward to maintain the current status we've been able to attain?
Well, as I started my first meeting, basically, the third-party oversight had already pretty much transferred, back into the department. So I've mainly worked with our internal auditors and the finance and accounting staff, and taking a look at what are the measures, what are the systems that are in place to make sure that we don't get back under that receivership, basically. And it's been very difficult. It's public knowledge that our deputy of finance and accounting is trying to learn her way. She's, I know, trying very, very hard, but as she's publicly stated, this is not her forte. So that is a big concern for the board, and we've relayed that to the superintendent, that there needs to be support staff, there needs to be processes that are put into place to make sure that we're not missing things, that we're still doing all the things that we need to, so that we don't go back under, basically the receivership.
Yeah, and that's why I joined Senator Brown, and I'm so glad you accepted the reappointment. I've had a chance to get some information as well, just in my general conversations with members, as well as I know how hard of a fight that was, and so I just, pray that as you continue now going forward, you emphasize, through the board and through the powers that be, that all of those guardrails need to be maintained, yes, and zealously, and also the fact that there's constant review, because you're exactly right. We don't want to go back to where we came from, and it was a tremendous undertaking. I mean, everybody in this room had something to do with that accomplishment, and to go backwards would just be a travesty. So I'm glad you accepted it. I know that in your business world, you've dealt also with all kinds of adversarial situations, as well as great successes. So you're cut out for this. And so I wanted just to make sure we got that on the record. And of course, when the budget process comes through, we'll ensure that we talk to the superintendent, as well as everybody, that has their duties and their responsibilities to uphold the really major accomplishment that was done, and none of us want to see us go backwards. That every Absolutely. Dime that we are able to not have to spend on that third party is money we can invest in our children. And so I thank you once again for your due diligence requirement to that. I'm sure we'll see you around budget time with the
Probably.
time you might have allotted to be here, but once again, I thank you, and you certainly, as Senator Brown said, you certainly have my support as well, and with this budget and this situation, I see why Ms. Gutierrez is very adamant that we try to make sure that you, if possible, meet this month's session. So we're going to do our best. Thank you, Christine, for coming forward, and appreciate everything that you're doing. Thank you very much. So at this time, I'm going to move on to Dr. Santos. As we say in the sports world, a returnee. I want to thank you for accepting the appointment as well. You know, your involvement in education is extensive, and once again, you're not coming into a foreign duty. Your learning curve should be relatively small, but we'll hear what you have to say at this time, Dr. Santos, and thank you for coming forward.
Thank you very much, and thank you. Good afternoon, Honorable Senators Dueñas and Senator Brown. It's a hard act to follow, but I'll do my best. My name is Michelle Santos, and I'm honored to be here today, and I appreciate the opportunity to seek your support for confirmation for the terminal degree position on the Guam Commission for Educator Certification. My commitment to education has driven my career for the past 33 of the 35 years I've been on Guam. I started my journey as a K-12 educator and then school administrator, witnessing firsthand the impact dedicated teachers have on young minds. This experience fueled my desire to contribute at a broader level, and I transitioned to higher education administration at Guam Community College for 10 years. In the past, for the past almost decade and a half, I have been deeply invested in Guam's educator preparation. The quality of the teacher is the #1 school-related factor on student achievement. My job has been focusing on ensuring our future educators are well-equipped and can make a difference. But my work doesn't stop at the edge of our reefs. Nationally, I've served as an accreditation lead for other educator preparation programs. This experience has provided me with invaluable insight from around the country into various educator prep requirements, best practices in that preparation, and the unique challenges faced by different regions. These experiences will allow me to contribute to the Commission with a local lens and a broad perspective. Here on Guam, I've seen the dedication of our educators firsthand. Their commitment to nurturing the next generation is truly inspiring. Joining the Guam Commission for Educator Certification would allow me to directly contribute to ensuring these educators have a method to continue to be the best and serve our island and our children with confidence. Beyond my experience, my 35 years on Guam have instilled a deep sense of community and a passion for my adopted home. This is an opportunity to give back and ensure our educational system continues to thrive for the benefit of our children and Guam's future. Sijus Masi.
Thank you, Dr. Santos, and once again, I'll defer to my good colleague, Senator Brown, if she has any questions for Dr. Santos.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Certainly appreciate your appointment, especially just the number of years that you've invested here on Guam in the educational system. I'm sure you've seen the best and probably the not so best of our educational system. In continuing on with the board, what would you like to see your contribution be to improve the status of where we're at? Because education, especially public education these days, it just doesn't get the best presentation, and yet there are a lot of young people that are coming out of the system that are doing well. Of course, we're always concerned about the ones that are not, and I myself spent 9 years in public school on Guam, so the majority of my education actually is a public school student. So I wanted to ask you, and continuing on, what do you see as your direction of what you'd like to add or improve on where we currently are with regards to your position on the board?
Well, thank you for the question. I have been away from the board for 3 years. And it gave me an opportunity to actually step away and see, you know, what really then is the role. You know, I'm coming at it from the educator prep side. This is the licensure side. And where is our role? And our role really is a commitment to the state, to the island, and ensuring that we have quality educators. You have people who say, you know, it's just a piece of paper. What does this tell the community? And it tells the community really that a person has the foundation, they have the tools to be a good teacher, right? And so to ensure that those tools are in place is key. And then it's up to the administration to ensure that the quality is maintained in the schools. person just the other day said, you know, I've been teaching for 6 years. Why do I need certification? Just give me credit for the time that I've been there. And I use the analogy of a swimmer, right? You're going to swim to survive. And you'll do whatever means that you have to survive while you're in that environment. But once you get a coach and once you get someone who can refine your skills, all of a sudden you can excel. And so the same thing can happen in a classroom. We can have our temporarily certified teachers who are there on a daily basis and giving their heart to survive. But when we can prepare and ensure licensure and that they have the tools and the skills, that's when we can see them excel and succeed. And so that would be the key for me, is that continuing to ensure that opportunity to excel and provide the certificate of credibility, basically, to our community that our teachers are well prepared for our students.
And with regards to the operations of DOE, because, you know, there's not limitless amounts of money, and the Department of Education consumes the largest budget in the government of Guam. And yet we see there are almost 10,000 less students that the Department of Education is educating, and yet, of course, the cost continues to go up. With regards to the actual management of that, how do you think we can improve the quality? Because we always hear about, like I said, it's always a negative, of course, but how can you, from your board position, address the operational side, the actual maintenance of it? And we understand a lot of these schools, some of them were built in the 60s. You know, I went to Price Elementary School. It was there before I was born. So those issues come up, the maintenance, the day-to-day maintenance, and the lack of maintenance, and the lack of repairs, the lack of staff. That, you know, it's concerning to all of us, because, as you know, you can't address the good issues of educating children if the environment that they're in is substandard or not where it needs to be to have a safe, clean environment for our students. What is your focus with regards to those issues and your board capacity now that you're coming back?
Well, the Guam Commission for Educator Certification is truly focusing on the quality of the educator in the classroom, as opposed to the Guam Education Board, which has more of the responsibility for the school facilities. So I think our role in terms of licensure would be to make sure that the qualified educator is there, as opposed to, you know, as opposed to the role of Ms. Baleto here for the Education Board. But one thing I would like to say is that we do hear in the media a lot about the maximization and things like that, but having met with the human resources, they've made it clear that there is still a need for teachers, and so our job then is to make sure that they're qualified teachers.
Well, I certainly hope you can, because you do have each other's ears to interact with and relay that, but I certainly think just your experience yourself, having been in the environment for as many years as you have, it's a lot of years of dedication. I think the collective input would be valuable, because at some point, and I've you know, told your superintendent, you know, my eyes are rolling in my head, because I've heard this story over and over and over again. And I went to school and we didn't have air conditioning. You know, we used to have the fans and we had the louver windows, and we got to the library for aircon back in the day. And I felt I got a very good education. I mean, it's the foundation of who I am and what I've been able to accomplish. And I spent that from Price School to Barragata Junior High, you know, in my 9 years in public school, and I'm very appreciative of that. But I'm concerned as we move forward that these basic issues that I did not have an issue with as a student. I cannot look back at my public school years and complain that I didn't have good teachers, or, you know, I had issues with the classroom. I mean, we had woodworking class. We had, you know, I knew how to sew. You know, we had all those fun things we got to do, and I remember my field trips and all that good stuff. I have good memories of being a student in public school. And yet when we hear the challenges here, when so much more, when the budget's literally tripled, but we still hear the same problems, and that to me is problematic. I'm sure for those of you that are very used to going in and getting the job done, it's very problematic to come back and hear that these problems still exist, no matter how much money we pour into the system. And I know if I could take a few $100,000 out and put it in another agency, I would see dramatic improvement. We're throwing it back into the pot. You know, we're back to where we were when we started. So certainly your contributions are appreciated, but any interactive recommendations that can be made that can improve where we're at. And sometimes it is getting the right people in the right place to make things happen. Because if you're self-motivated, as Ms. Baleto knows, it makes a big difference on the outcome of the product of the work that you're doing. If you have to sit there and prod people, you know, you're there and you don't see the level of improvement, and a lot of it has to take self-initiative. You've got to have people that are go-getters that want to get the job done and will go in and get it done and not sit around and wait again, and, you know, the clock passes and there's no improvement, because I think as a community we're getting to the point already that if we don't, there's going to be a lot of confidence loss. And as I mentioned, some of these children have no other alternative for education to go somewhere else or go to private school. So any improvement we can make, and the fact, again, I know you guys pretty much are volunteering your time, it's appreciated. But at some point, we just want to see things kick into place and, you know, have some accomplishments that we can look at, and we're not going back down that road again. So I appreciate you for stepping forward. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Brown. And so I just have a couple of questions. I was aware, and when I was at Department of Youth Affairs, of course, we had our teachers, special ed teachers there that were taking care of our children who were in care and custody. And I was made aware of a program, and I think it's still you know, available, and hopefully it's still operating in a robust fashion. I think Dr. Yamashita and others started the mentor program, basically to sustain teachers who maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years, as was mentioned earlier. Maybe Ms. Abaday can, when I get to her too, can comment. But I was made to understand that was a very successful program, not only based on certification, but maintaining teachers in the system. When you had experienced teachers with many, many years of experience mentoring younger teachers, kind of teaching them different methods and the like to retain teachers in the system. Is that something you see you would take a look at again and make sure that possibly looking at the possible successes of that program is integrated with certification in order to try to retain teachers who may, just through mentoring, you know, change their mind maybe if they were thinking about exiting the system?
I'm really happy you recognize the success of that program, but it is absolutely still a part of the law, and it is required, as a matter of fact, to go from initial educator to professional educator. So within the first 3 years, and the whole intent was for the retention aspect to mentor, to give those skills, to give that extra person to lean on, that within the first 3 years of teaching that there is 1 year of full mentorship. And GDOE has done an amazing job in supporting that as well. They've invested in instructional coaches, they've identified mentors, they've made it easier for new teachers to have mentors within the schools. And so I think in terms of that continuing, it's a necessity, and the success of it is recognized, and so we don't see that going away. Thank you.
Very nice. And so I don't want to get over my skis and ahead of myself, but I know it's been mentioned now quite a bit in the media. So I just wanted to get, if you haven't formed your thoughts yet, I just wanted to see if you have some ideas and what you might think, what cross-leveling and this discussion now on schools and approaching, you know, the situation whereby there may be some merging of populations and the like. How do you see that affecting possibly the certification as well as the amount of teachers available, maybe if they were to move into closer quarters? Have you given that any thought? Like I said, if you haven't, fine, but I know that that's really on the table right now. I know the board will be grappling with this as well.
Right. And this situation is not unique to Guam. This has happened in many places, and in terms of students not returning to schools or moving into different locations, and districts struggling with empty classrooms. And so I think from a business perspective, you have to maximize, right? From a quality perspective, we have to maximize because we know that there are classrooms with people who don't necessarily have the skills to be teachers in that classroom. In meeting with HR, there were over 180 people who were not certified. So by maximizing and getting more certified teachers into the classrooms, that's excellent for our students. We also recognize that smaller class sizes can help students who are struggling. So, you know, there's give and take. I'm trying not to make sure that the board doesn't get too upset with me. But yeah, I mean, there are pros and cons with everything, right? But we are dealing with a short budget, and they have tough decisions to make. And so we try to make sure that teachers coming out, we can support them. We can recognize that it's a struggle. You make your friends, you love your students, and it will happen at the next place you go as well. So I understand the struggle, and it must be really tough that they're dealing with that.
Yeah, Dr. Santos, there's always going to be pains. You know, I don't think, the way I see it, and from my perspective, and we'll have to grapple with that here too, is the fact that, you know, this is a new reality with charter schools and everything that's going on, that this actually may be the opportunity, like you said, to, even with merging, you have smaller class sizes capability, you have more teachers in different levels and at different levels. But now maybe what we're going to end up doing is finally realizing the proper ratios, not have the chronic shortages because we're condensing more and the ability to work within that system. And at some point, there's going to be a harmonizing of, you know, the charter schools, because they're deriving their budget from education, basically, in terms of the per pupil. So, you know, I think that, you know, you put a realistic point of view on the table that we're all going to be dealing with when we go forward. So, you know, I can see that you've thought through this deeply already, which is what we need, because that's, you know, in your level of certification with all the expertise in this room, all our heads are going to have to be together in order to be able to try to smooth this out and get the best possible education to our children. So I appreciate your answer. And as Dr. Minnick said it earlier, you know, just mix it up, because that's what's going to get those ingredients mixed up will bake the best cake. So for me, I'm satisfied with what you presented, and welcome back. And we appreciate it, and the committee will move as quickly as possible to process the committee report and prepare for your confirmation to hit the floor. Thank you once again for your willingness to serve. Now we'll move on to Ms. Abaday, and as I said, you probably have a lot of insight now in terms of what we've been discussing, so please proceed.
Okay. So Hafadam, my name is Roberta Abaday, and I humbly request your confirmation for my appointment as a community at large representative of the Guam Commission for Educator Certification. With almost 50 years of experience in the field of education, almost all of them in the public school system of Guam, I have had the honor to work with a variety of projects for the Guam Department of Education. I have brought that experience and commitment to the work of the Guam Commission for Educator Certification. As the current chairperson for GCEC, I wrote a message which is on our website. It provides a brief history of the work that we have accomplished. The Guam Commission for Educator Certification, established as a separate entity by Public Law 29-73 on May 15, 2008, has the responsibility to ensure that all educators, counselors, and administrators meet and maintain a professional level of knowledge, skills, and ethics to provide the best possible education for the children of our island of Guam. The GCEC reviewed all public laws, rules, and regulations, and conferred with teachers of all levels, counselors, and administrators to compile the requirements for certification, as well as those for ethical conduct. The Commission continues its work to review and adjust the regulations to meet the current needs and issues of the educational community. I was selected to be one of the original members of the Commission, and the Commissioners elected me as chairperson during our initial years from 2008 to 2011, and again in 2019 to the current time. I have worked with the GCEC to finalize the Code of Ethics, to create standard operating procedures, and to ensure that the voices of educators are heard. My resume demonstrates that I have the background experience in the educational system here and in Micronesia, both through accreditation visits to the schools and workshops and university courses. Having the historical background from the inception of GCEC, knowledge of current research, and the requirements of the Guam Commission for Educator Certification, I am willing to continue my commitment to the GCEC, the educators, and most importantly, to the students of our care. I humbly request your approval of my appointment for another term for the Guam Commission for Educator Certification.
Thank you, Mrs. Abaday, and thank you for once again accepting the nomination And at this time, I will defer to my colleague, Senator Brown, for any questions she may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and certainly, Ms. Abaday, your resume, again, is very impressive for the years that you've been here engaged in public education. I wanted to ask you, because we know every year there's always a shortage of certified teachers to put in the classroom, and for those, if they go up for certification and they're short for whatever reason to meet the requirements, what recommendations do you have for them? I mean, if they've already demonstrated the initiative of wanting to be an educator, that's a very important ingredient to have, but maybe for whatever reason they fall short from meeting the full requirements that you and your commission needs to certify them to be teachers. What happens in that case, and what can you recommend to kind of encourage them, you yourself having walked that path all these years, to get them to be certified and in the classroom?
Okay, thank you for asking the question, because it's something we have only taken care of over the last approximately 4 or 5 months. We've created a new standard operating procedure for people who are a little bit short of the praxis test score by 5 points. They are able to take courses, and the university is working on providing a course as well, and they can go online and find courses in order to supplement whatever reading, writing, or mathematics they may be missing in the core areas. If they are going for Praxis 2, which is something that is, again, short by 5 points, we are willing to have them monitored by an administrator for 2 years, and if they get exemplary recommendations or exemplary assessment, then we will, again, provide that as an alternative. So that was our most recent standard operating procedure that we studied for over a year, and I know originally we had been working with Dr. Wampat and Dr. Okada trying to look at some of the data and some of the information, and that was the solution that the commission came up with, and I think in October, November, we finalized it, and that is now out for people to utilize if they are in need of that little bit of an adjustment.
Limit on the amount of times if they're not successful the first or second time? I mean, is there any limit in terms of how many times they can come up and try and, meet those certification requirements? And do you have a timeline? Or, if they're an existing teacher in the classroom, for example, and they're not certified, is there a timeline that they can continue to teach until they have to be certified in terms of the requirements?
As far as the testing requirements, they can take that as many times as they want. If they take it the first time and they are short, then they just have to take the course, and it's up to them. They should take it right away, because if they have a temporary certificate, they have 2 years that they are able to move forward with that. We do try to encourage them as much as possible to continue improving in their skills and to try to make sure they are providing the best education for the children in the classroom. And that's one of the ways we do it, is to make sure they have the basis, and then taking the courses, they can continue to renew. We have 2 sets of certificates, one that's for 5 years and one that's for 10 years. They can renew that as long as they are still interested in teaching. I still have my certificate, and as long as I can show professional development, as long as I can show that I've taken courses, we're very open. So we have connected with the teacher evaluation program at DOE, because I also worked on that particular committee. So we make sure that it's not just courses that teachers have to take, because we all know teachers do so much extra in the classroom. They're doing presentations, they're doing workshops, they're doing meetings, they're working on accreditation. And so we are recognizing and honoring all those hours as well for them to renew their certificates.
I appreciate that. That was going to be my next question, but you already answered it with regards to the 5 and 10 year in terms of continuing their certification. So they are required, teachers are required ongoing to have these additional trainings or programs that they're engaged in to maintain their certification?
Either training programs or the work that they're doing, as long as they are recording the number of hours. We do so much with accreditation. They have meetings. If they can record all the hours they are working on those meetings, that counts.
Then all that credits towards their recertification, I guess, when they come back.
So for the 5 year, it's 90 hours, and that can be a combination of courses and work hours. For the 10 year, it's 120 hours.
Okay. Well, thank you. I wish you continued luck with the work that you're doing. I'm sure our committee is going to come back and recommend the confirmation for all 3 of you. It's appreciative, because to have, the level of practical experience all of you bring to the table is really needed. Obviously, the need is there. And the fact that, I mean, you are all success stories in terms of your own careers and what you've already accomplished, but to be able to give back to your community and have your level of skill set is much appreciated, so thank you. Thank you, all of you, Ms. Abaday. Thank you for also stepping forward, and we wish you continued success. I don't know if it's a good thing, but we'll confirm you. You got our vote. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Yeah, the old adage, right? Is this a blessing or is this a curse? I'm sure it's a blessing to each and every one of you as much as you love what you do. My question really is going to focus on an issue that the committee's been grappling with. I know we've had one oversight with regard to it, and I wanted to get your thoughts and how you see the progression with regard to special education. And I don't know that it's a certification issue or it's more of a ratio and the services, for providing. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that. Is it certification? Is it the teachers in terms of our need, or is it more the programs and the more extensive need of the children?
When we're looking at special education, there have been a number of teachers who have gone through the program, and I believe there is currently a new special education program at the university. Am I correct?
There should be one starting soon.
Yes, it will be starting soon. So we were just discussing at our last commission meeting, and we hope that there will be more teachers who will be going in for certification training through those courses and getting their degree, and that would allow more teachers to be out inside the classroom, working with the special ed or the special needs students. As far as trying to assist them, I don't know if we will ever have enough teachers in special education, because every year we have more and more students who are qualifying for the special education program. And I think we're trying to keep up as quickly as we can. That has to be partially their training and their desire, and also how the Department of Education arranges the human resources.
Thank you for that answer. I mean, that's the feedback that we're getting. Of course, a lot of it, and I know Ms. Gutierrez and others that are addressing these issues, some of it was the one-to-one issues and the issues with regard to maybe their physical needs sometimes and the need with assistance. But I just wanted to make sure that, to kind of get an idea of the attention being paid to the actual certified teachers. And it sounds like we're on track, and that's great that the university will be taking up, additional opportunities for specialized training in this area. So as far as I'm concerned, that's the only questions that I have. Once again, I want to thank you for your willingness to accept the appointment, and I certainly, all three of you, have my support. And so the committee now will basically, unless there's any other testimony, let me check with my committee here. D, is there anybody else signed up? We're good? Okay. So at this time then, not very painful, the committee has considered all of your nominations having been heard, and so we will now take it to the next level, where we prepare committee reports for consideration of placement on the website, and also placement of yourself to be confirmed on the floor of the legislature in the most recent session that we can, or upcoming session that we can accommodate that. So once again, I want to thank all of you who came out to testify today, and all of you for accepting your appointments. At this point in time, at 2:57, I'll call this public hearing adjourned. Si Diyos masi.